So I'm just going to. So I'm just going to quickly reiterate a couple of points. You've seen the graphs in the road surface, and you've seen the graphs on. But because of metadata sense, we pulled the data out of the RAM data out of NCTA's system, which happens to be the same as the system of ours. And within 8 hours, we can draw the forward liability curves for the state highways in the whole roads region in 8 hours. The data's pretty good. Our roading data's actually pretty good across the country. That's a significant benefit. So the stormwater pipes. What we're able to do now, because the typologies of the schemes are the same in terms of the data, I can do with my crew interoperability index really easily. So that slide in the back there, it's animated just like the other ones, but I can show you which pavement we're going to dig up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years from a stormwater renewal the year after we've resealed it. So you immediately got a clean line of sight geospatially on where and when you should move your work programs around so you don't dig up your roads right after you've sealed them. You lose about 30% life immediately if you dig your pavements up in the first 2 or 3 years. It's a huge value loss. So having tools that actually join these things together is huge. Affordability, we start talking a little bit about finance. Because you're able to look at the forward liability of what it costs to maintain your assets, you can also start looking forward at what your income streams are in terms of depreciation funding, because we fully fund depreciation in local government, to see whether things are affordable or not. So there's a few graphs there. And that's all that core infrastructure that's in front of you there. You should see, as you can see, in the next 30 years, the red line is our forecast income in terms of our depreciation, and the green line, the bubbly line, is what our future renewals look like. So we're okay in Wellington. And it's based on some pretty good data for the first time. So it means we can start thinking about and talking about and discussing things like extensions to airports, museums, conference centres, because they've actually got a little bit of headroom in there. Hard to do that, flying by the seat of your pants, because there's a lot at stake if you get it wrong. We're really starting to look at even some more sophisticated analytics called hedonic pricing models. That's about a willingness to pay. It's all spatial. Am I prepared to drive from some suburb into town, or am I prepared to pay $100,000 more for my house if I actually understand it costs me a bucket load of money to drive my car there every day and go to work, and the kids, or wherever it is, as compared to actually living there on a walk or cycle or something like that. So it's about an understanding. We're understanding our communities spatially in terms of some economics. We've done some financial analytics on every single property against the recent census data. It shows me that nearly 90% of Wellingtonians pay less than 5% of their disposable income and rates. Less than 70% pay less than 4%, and about nearly 50% pay less than 3% of their total income, their disposable income. I immediately said, wow, that's pretty cool, because I didn't know, to be honest. And I go, if you compare that to something like a mobile phone, a internet connection, and Sky TV, for example, it's about the same amount as what people pay in rates, and we do water, wastewater, stormwater, roads, bridges, parks, reserves, libraries, museums, and so on and so forth. So we can tell a story, again, geospatially, of the value proposition local government offers. And people can see it for the first time really clearly. Sustainability. We are doing things like called economic yield analysis. We understand what the economic benefit of our infrastructure is on a parcel ID. So when we want to increase the density of the city and the infrastructure that needs to support that are sort of collision together, we can see what extra earnings we can get to understand what extra income we can receive and economic benefit we can provide the city. So you can do some really cool things. So you've got a current state, you've got some forecast state, because you've got proposed developments, means you can recheck your models pretty easily. And you can check where the infrastructure will support it. There's some stuff going on right now around our population development. If you guys know a woman called Dr. Natalie Jackson, she's one of New Zealand, probably New Zealand's top demographer out of Waikato University. Basically, New Zealand will slow its growth. Germany stopped growing, France has stopped growing, Japan stopped growing. Traditionally, in New Zealand, the next generation pays for the investment of the infrastructure from the previous generation. That's just how it's worked. But if we're going to stop growing and we're putting pipes in the ground for 100 years, there's no next generation. So we're going to be really careful around how much money we spend on infrastructure, on average, per person in our communities. And everybody knows that our rural sector is really struggling with infrastructure because people have left. There's not populations that can pay for it anymore. If we're not careful, our cities will be in the same boat. Not open for a long time, but actually, if you look at a real long time, it's just the same. Wellington's probably out 40 years, maybe 50 years, but after that, it's flatlined. So there's a thing called capital widening and capital deepening. And we're building a thing called an infrastructure affordability index. I guess to sort of describe it another way, we all live in castles if we can afford to, but no one really can, so we just buy more houses. We can do the thing that was talked about earlier today. We've got analytics telling you the average walk distance from every single property to anything, anywhere in the city, from a point or a polygon through a shapefile in a distance. So this one is someone came and asked me, what's the average walk distance to a park in Wellington? I don't know. So we went away with the analytic, and we've got heat maps of the whole city. And I can tell you the answer is 302.2 metres. And our policy people were very, very grateful because we could tick this particular box in the world's livable cities as a nice place to live. The answer is supposed to be less than 400 metres, just so you know. So we can do things like bus stops, train stations. So how accessible is our city in terms of public transport? We are very accessible, as it turns out. And we have less average walk distance to our public transport than Singapore does. And the reason I know that is because 3 weeks ago I was up there and their numbers higher than ours. We've got Bluetooth technologies. We've got that many sensors going in right now around the city to track and trace traffic movements around the city. We can do it real time, we can do it on the iPhone, and I can see where's congested and not. We're just learning and talking to people about how we publish all this stuff, as you can imagine. Average speeds, average distances, all sorts of things we can calculate. We had a big argument in the city. It was really interesting around putting 30 km/h signs around. And where we would put them, around analytic, the average speed is 32.5. We're going to spend these thousands and thousands of dollars on signs. Why would you? We're not doing it anyway. So all this stuff is really helpful for decisions. You've seen that. Some of these are just heat maps for different routes. But we can do instant here. This is actually average over the period. This is today, as it were. And we can do predictive analytics around what the forecast travel times will be and really be. So I'm seeing there's trouble a bit. You've seen that. So just to finish off, we were in a real mess at the start, as you saw. And it took us, we're through to here now, 15. We've got a window on the stuff we can do, and we've seen some of the stuff we can do. But I reckon it's going to take another 6 years for us to get into the real space where I came from. And so my last employer was actually still in Australia before I came home. And running real-time analytics on machinery and things like that. Kind of like I guess you don't think Toyota in Japan hasn't known how to do this for 30 years. Of course they have. So those are the kind of industries where this kind of capabilities come from, which is bringing it into a new arena. Benefits. So I can do this now because I've had the privilege of being given an opportunity to do it. Save us $30 million in renewals in terms of analytics and $90 million on our Forward Works program. It's $120 million for the next 10 years. from our initial investments just on good data, and good geospatially savvy analytics that allow me to look at when and what I'm doing and why. And there's huge opportunities for condition utilisation of demand, which we haven't even tapped into well enough. So it's a bit of a progress. So I guess my question, sort of globally at the moment, and talking to a few others across different sectors, is what are the undiscovered institutional arrangements that allow you to share this kind of stuff? And I think the answer is having common data platforms, common data standards that allows people to share knowledge and information through data, because otherwise they're just a little bit out of date from them. That's it. Thanks, guys. Any questions?
I'm just interested in more about the A Spec concepts. Was one said the thing about data standards is that there's so many of them to choose from. How do you look at other existing standards which are out there for the types of things which you're developing? That's part of the question, but so you described what A Spec is as a process for collaboration and things like that. Can you elaborate more on how that process works and also the outputs from that process, presumably some form of data model, metadata model, that those models become, are they open or are they become proprietary, or are they owned by the organisation?
Okay, I'll answer the easy one first. We have looked at other standards. When we first did our research, we had a look at standards in Europe, the INSPIRE program. We had a look at standards in Canada, GeoConnections program. We had a look at standards in Queensland called ADAC, similar thing. Full breadth of everything from developing software to high level spatial data infrastructures. Our focus was what did we need to do to be able to manage an asset. So we decided on, well, we needed to find out where those assets were and what their condition was before we did anything about that. And that's where the subject matter experts come into it. So that leads me into what the process is. So we have a structure that we work in jurisdictions. We work in Victoria, in WA, in New South Wales, and we're starting to work in other states in Australia, and we're working in New Zealand. So we have a core set of requirements that were developed out of Victoria, and every time we've moved to another organisation, whether in Victoria or interstate or overseas, we've endeavoured to learn what the key requirements are. So even though we ran a process with developers, software vendors and consultants, we wanted to know what the key requirements were locally. If it was a group of 4 councils in a southwest corner of Victoria or northeast or in Melbourne, we wanted to know what their local issues were. I could probably write down a definitive list of what all the issues are, but if I told you what your issues are, would you accept it? So me finding out what your key concerns are is the first step, and that's part of me listening to what you have to say. So when someone says to me, George, you failed, okay, so what's missing then?
The thing I'd add would be that if you do that enough times, then you actually find a sweet spot. There's a bit of terminology. I mean, these guys over the ditch call manholes pits. I mean, no one knew what he was talking about when he first came over, for example. Great example would be another one. So apart from that, if you do this enough times, a pipe's just a pipe, it's just a pipe. And there's only so many ways you can cut it, if you like. So if you do that enough times, you actually settle on something that's pretty robust, that has probably more influence in time with things like 3D technologies and what information you need to collect, if anything, around how you might manage BIM models or things like that, as opposed to the data, as opposed to the asset itself. So I guess there's quite a lot of maturity around this. And the other thing that we did with the roading sector, we've got all the heavy hitters in the room, all their best and brightest in the room, we chucked all the knowledge literally on the table and then started populating against the schemas. So, and it was coalition of willing actually, and there was a little bit of blood on the floor, of course. But it is a process, but ultimately it ends up being a document with a set of standards, a set of tables with attributes that you populate, and that population is a configured system of your choice to enable that.
So I'll just finish on that. So if I talk about the TAG, the process that formed there, a governance group was formed, and then the technical working group was formed under that. So they're the subject matter experts there. So we dealt with the standards expert from NZTA, the asset manager from Auckland Transport, GIS people from NZTA, GIS and asset people from Christchurch and Wellington. So there was quite a large group of people. Okay, so then we met as a group, and then we went to each of their organisations, and each of those people then co-opted key people from their organisation to come along to an introduction where we introduced the concept to them and what we could do. So we did all of that. Then we had a series of workshops with our technical working group. So there was toing and froing about what's in, what's out, why, what have we missed out, what's working, what's not working. George, you're wrong. Buy some more chocolate. I'm not kidding about the chocolate. I turned up one time without Toblerone and I almost got tossed out of the room. So, we had a bit of fun along the way, and I actually enjoyed the stuff, and enjoyed dealing with people. So that's about the process. What comes out of that is a document that says, here's all the data fields that we want about a pipe, here's all the data fields that we want about the road surface, here's all the data fields we want about the pavement, in every attribute that an asset manager is going to want. We cover the data types. What we don't do is we don't go in and say, here is the logical data model, or here is the schema that you're going to use, because it needs to be fed into a variety of vendors' products. So for example, I think latest count we have something like 14 asset management packages that ingest A Spec data because of the requirement of the council, and a number of GISs. So there's no reason for us to play with that kind of infrastructure. We want to set the tone of what data is to be ingested.
The thing that was good for us, I think, Jody, is that it is systems agnostic. It's design system agnostic, no less. So if you're using Revit or ArchiCAD or 3D Max or whatever kind of design package you're using, if you've got metadata savvy objects that are configured to the schemas, then you can just suck them into a similarly agnostic RAM, Infinet, Hanson, Bentley, doesn't matter what it is, solution that you want in terms of your choice of an organisation to manage your assets in the future.
And you'd all have had an experience with RAM. The TAG is dealing with RAM. We're dealing with the requirements that RAM has to ingest as a service provider to the roading control authorities. So the last part about it is it free? No, it's not free. It's a proprietary set of metadata standards, and we're currently in negotiation with NZTA about making that available to all the roading authorities in New Zealand.
George, I should probably add. So New Zealand Water and Treasury are looking at the 3 specifications for water right now for NZ Inc. And a few of us who are helping to put that together. And MB have asked us to chair the same metadata standards for all the buildings in New Zealand. So people have absolutely recognised this is missing currently, and central government, and as far as even some of our Minister of Finance, Minister English, is 100% behind getting this sorted out. So they can actually do the kind of analytics that we've just seen.
Sorry, it was a long answer. Did that cover everything?
Yeah, so a couple of things.
So, do you want my models? I think is the last question. so if we develop in the city, so with some people, I work for local government. That was my last slide, really, or second last slide. Was if people configure their stuff to this, why wouldn't, as a local government entity, I give that out to the other local government agencies? Why wouldn't I give my housing stuff to Housing New Zealand? I can tell you Housing New Zealand, I've had discussions around how we're going to do that.
Sure not. There's lots of people out in the road with the interested in sharing the same, well, at least the
Yeah, sure. So keen to do that. Just have to find a way. Any other questions?
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen.